Hey everyone, welcome to week 3 of 3D Basics. Today, we are covering, or I am going to do a model, a kind of more advanced model. Last week we just did like the house and it took a couple minutes. I'm going to spend about 20 or 30 minutes doing another model, showing you a couple new things here. You can follow along if you'd like. I'm including the file that I'm using. After that, we're going to add I'll show you lights and materials and using a camera, and we'll kind of actually render out an image, like a kind of a final image. So we'll kind of follow the process, a basic process from start to finish over the course of an hour. And then we're going to talk about assignment 2 at the end. So if you weren't able to join the Zoom on Thursday, the 27th, I encourage you to go back and watch that recording first before you move on to the lecture this week. Did I forget anything? Oh, I felt like the quality of my recording for week 2 was not as good, so I'm trying something a little different this time. Hopefully, the quality is a little better for watching back. So. Follow along if you can. We're going to do a model of an X-Wing because I'm a Star Wars nerd. So let's hop over to Blender. Now, before we even start that, creating things in 3D and in general, I guess. I am the kind of person who always uses some sort of reference material. What I do when I'm looking for source material, I just usually do a Google image search. So like for this particular X-Wing, X-Wing blueprint. So a lot of times you can find like good, like actual usable, let me blow this up a little bit, reference material. So like, look at this. And hopefully you can see, oh, it's behind my head. Hopefully you can see that there's like, something like this is really valuable because if it's giving us the front view, a rear view, a top view, and a side view. And for those of you that don't even know what I'm talking about, this is a spaceship. This is a fictional spaceship that we're modeling from Star Wars. So like think about, these are orthographic views of an X-Wing starfighter spaceship. So we can actually like put this into Blender with our orthographic views and like basically trace. Now, obviously, you know, the X-Wing is copyrighted intellectual property of Disney and George Lucas and whatever, but we're just doing this for fun, just to show as an example. Because I think when you see the result, you're like, oh yeah, like this, it looks cool once we get it done. All right. So, maybe you don't want to do an X-Wing. Maybe you want to do like a Ferrari blueprint. Did I spell Ferrari right? Yeah. So like, look at this. Blueprint is kind of the operative word, I think, for a lot of these. So like, this is a Ferrari Enzo. If you're a car person, maybe grab this one because it's like orthographic side, front, top, back views of a car, and you can essentially trace it, which is what we're gonna do. So I found I grabbed one of these blueprints, one of the X-Wing blueprints, and I have it linked below if you want to download it and follow along. So pause if you need to. Let's get in. Let's do it. So using a reference image in Blender, to add it in. So I'll show you just briefly how to do it, and then I'll show you the more efficient way to do it, or the more effective way to do it. Excuse me. Shift A. So previously we've just added meshes and maybe a couple other things, but down here we actually have image. And so we've got a couple things in here, background and reference, but we're going to grab a reference image. So I'm going to I downloaded it, I put it in my Spring 2022 folder, and here's X-Wing Blueprint JPEG. Now, one thing to be aware of that you're going to see is when I import it, like just like this, it's going to put it directly facing my viewport. So if I hit load reference image, you can see that it's pointed straight at me. And it's actually like in the scene here. So like I can hit the G. Oh, and of course I forgot my keyboard shortcuts. Key and stroke. There we go. There we go. Let's go. Okay. So if I hit G and move it around, this is something in my scene. But if I rotate around like this, you can see that, okay, well, this actually isn't that helpful because it's at an awkward angle. So you want it to be in the orthographic view that you need it to be in. So I'm going to delete that with the delete key, and I'm going to go 1 for my front view in orthographic, and I'm going to Shift A, do it again, image, reference, load the X-Wing blueprint, boom. And now I can kind of position this. So this is my front view, so I want to make sure that, and I am going to work off of this cube, so I'm going to S to scale up my reference image like this, make it big enough. And then G, I'm going to kind of, so this is my front view of the X-Wing here. I'm just going to kind of position it right where I want it to be. G, whoops, S, scale it up a little bit bigger maybe. And then G, put it here like this. Great. Click, left click to apply. The other thing is like, this might be really distracting to have it be solid, like bright blue and red. So what we can do on the right side here, if we look at all of our different tabs, property tabs, we've got this one down here, object data properties. This is like the symbol for an image. It's like a mountain and a sun or something like that. So if you click on this, it's displaying as an empty. You can see that it's actually called empty up here. So maybe up here in our scene collection, I'll rename this to front ref. Front reference image, and we can change the opacity. So here, if you click this box, the opacity is at 1. So this is another thing. So in Blender, and in a lot of other things, like percentages are measured in a value from 0 to 1. So like right now, the opacity is at 1.000. So that means it's 100%. If I put this at 0.5, if I type in 0.5, this represents 50%. So you're going to see this throughout Blender. It's a value between 0 and 1, not 0 and 100. It's a decimal, and this comes into play quite a bit. So maybe 50%, and you can even just click and drag on this to get the desired opacity. And we just need to like see it enough to get a sense of the shape. Cool. So we've got our front view in, and now the other thing is, well, let's talk about that later. So let's do side view. So I'm going to do 3, and if I Shift A and do image, reference, load this in, my side view, and you got to kind of think about it a little bit, but the view of this here is actually the left. So when you hit 3 on your number pad, you're looking at the right side. So up here it says right, but if you are kind of imagining this top reference image here, it's from the left. So if I ended up doing it like this, it would be backwards. It doesn't matter that much, but you just have to be aware of it as you're kind of setting things up. So what I'm going to do is there's a couple things you could do. You could actually Control 3 with your mouse in the window, Control 3, and insert it this way so that we're actually looking at the left, or and reinsert. But I'm actually just going to transform this. I'm going to rotate the Y. I'm going to rotate the Z to be in -90, like that. And so now it's in the right spot. And now we can kind of position this, scale it. I may end up changing the scale of these a little bit later on as well. So I'm just going to kind of try to get it close, because once we start using our different orthographic views, we'll probably want to just shift these a tiny bit, but I'm just getting them plugged in for now. Okay, and then 7 is going to be top view. So I'm going to Shift A, add one more reference image, X-Wing blueprint, load reference image, scale this up. And so now I need to think one more time. So if this is like top down, and this is like the nose going this way, I want the nose of my top view to also be kind of pretty much in the same spot. So I actually don't really need to be in an orthographic view right now. So here I can rotate the my Z minus 90, and I can kind of, let's see, G shift Z so that it's not moving in the Z axis, and kind of line it up here. I'll probably need to change the scale a little bit more. G shift Z, just to kind of line it up like this. Cool. And that's like, it doesn't have to be perfect. The other thing we can do is we can also change the opacities of these as well. So this one is going to be our left view. I'm going to change the name of this empty to left ref. And I'll change the name of this empty here to top ref. Great. And then I'll change the opacity. What did I change this one to? This one was at 14%. I'm looking here at this value, 0.14. Also, I'll probably do the same here. Check the opacity box, 0.14. And then top, 0.14. Cool. So now you're probably noticing that like this is a mess. Like how do you even work with all this stuff jumbled up here in the middle? We can just slide these way out of the way. So I can, with this one selected, I can GZ just move it down. With this one, I can GX move it this way, or this way, I guess. And then GY move this one back. So that way, like, you know, as we're working with our perspective view, it's not like in the way, but as if we're doing our references, you know, they're looking good. So immediately I'm thinking that like this one is a little bit too small, so maybe I'll just make this one a little bigger. I suppose I could look at the scale of this. If I go here, the scale is 8.4. On the left, 8.8. And again, this may not be the perfect blueprint. This may not be exactly to scale, so we'll find out. All right, now we're actually ready to model. So for me, the place that I want to start is my side view. Because I feel like that's a good place to start. So let's tab to get into edit. Well, yeah, let's tab to get into edit mode. And actually, you know what? Before I even do this, I've thought of another thing I want to do. So an X-wing is symmetrical. So why don't I just put a mirror modifier on here, and that way I only have to do half of it. So let me do a loop cut. So Control R. And I want it to be right in the middle, going this way, kind of front to back, because I'm thinking it's going to mirror across like this. And it's sliding right now, but I don't want it to slide, so I'll right click, and that will apply the cut in the center here. So I'll go 3 for face select, and I'm just going to take all these on the left here and hit the delete key. Delete faces, deleting faces, deleting faces, delete faces. Great. So now we've just got half. I've got my cube. So actually, why don't I already rename this cube right now, and I'll call this X-wing body. And let's go to our modifiers tab. Remember, modifiers is this little blue gear here. So we've got the X-wing body selected. I'm going to click the add modifier drop down, and we'll go down to mirror. And then it's, by default, it's mirroring in the x-axis, which is what we want. If I hit 1 for vertex select, we can see that the clipping isn't on, so I want these ones in the center to be attached, so I'll hit clipping here, enable clipping. Perfect. All right, so let's get to it. Now, I do want to turn on this X-ray select, and I'll show you what difference that makes. So if I select this corner right here, this top corner or front corner, and I hit the G key and I move it forward like this, and it's like, okay, I want to position it right under R2 right there. If I go back to my perspective view, you can see that it didn't grab this one in the middle, so it's awkward. So what we can do, I'm going to undo that. This button right here, top right, toggle X-ray. The shortcut is Alt-Z. But what this does is you can see that when I enable it and this turns blue, my cube becomes a little bit transparent, and it allows you to kind of select through things. So if I grab this and I hit the G key, it's grabbing all the way through. So it might be kind of hard to understand why that makes a difference, but it grabbed both of these vertexes and moved them forward. So when you're working in orthographic views, a lot of times it makes sense to have this X-ray turned on. If you have things that are like perfectly perpendicular to your orthographic view. All right, so we're back at a square. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab all of this front face here, and I'm going to just kind of extrude different parts out where kind of the shape of it changes. So with all of these front vertexes selected, I'm going to hit the E key and just kind of extrude out to here, like that. Because now it seems like there's a little bit of a change in the shape, so I'm going to E again, and maybe S, kind of scale this up, maybe G. And actually, yeah, I'm going to undo that. So, and then I'm going to just grab these top ones, G, kind of move it up here. And actually, I'm going to try to line this up a little bit nicer. All right. I'm going to grab these ones here again, and I'm going to extrude to like about the top there. And I realize that now my bottom ones aren't lined up very well. So it's not a perfect science. But I'm going to whoops. I'm going to select all these front ones again. Extrude here. And just kind of try to, line these bottom ones up, line these top ones up here. Extrude, whoops, grab all the front ones again. So so you can, when you have 4 points selected and you hit E to extrude, it's going to extrude the whole thing. I could also be working with face select. I could kind of come over here and do E extrude again, but it's essentially doing the same thing. So I'm in 1, or I can hit 1 on my number pad, or not on my number pad, 1 on my top row numbers for vertex select. I'm going to go 3 on my number pad to go back to my side orthographic view. And I'm going to E extrude out again here to about this point. I can grab these and move them with the G key, but I can also grab all of these and scale down. And just so you understand how that's working too, like, if you have multiple things selected, multiple points selected, if you scale, it's going to scale the relative positions of them, so kind of make them come closer together. So I'm scaling here like this with the S key. Maybe I'll extrude one more time like this, maybe scale that down one more time, and then E extrude out to here to the point and scale that down to a really small point like this. Okay. So we're starting with like very basic blocks, and we're going to kind of add detail in as we go. So 3, I think that's looking pretty good. Let me just work on the back here a little bit. It's kind of tough to see through it here, so we're just going to kind of make some assumptions. I think there's like a little bit on top here, so I'm actually going to extrude up like this, because that's like where R2D2 sits. Then I'll grab these ones in the back and kind of E extrude here. And I think, I think this kind of comes back in like that. I'm not being super precise. And then also it looks like it kind of comes down here at the bottom, that there's kind of an undercarriage. So I'll grab these here, and actually maybe just these ones. I want to include that little bit there. I'll extrude again here, and I'll just kind of here's another tip actually. This is a useful tip. So looking at here, this kind of created a rectangle where I want a square. So ideally I would want to like delete these vertexes, so it was just kind of straight across like this. But if I actually hit the delete key and say delete vertices, it's gonna like totally get rid of it, which isn't what I want. I actually want a triangle to go across here. So it's like you could try to do the knife tool, but there's actually a way to kind of combine vertexes to kind of make them one. So the keyboard shortcut to move vertices is the double G. So like if I just hit G once, it's a regular move, regular grab. But if I go GG, now it slides along edges like this. So you can see, hopefully you can see that an edge turns yellow, like it kind of highlights an edge in yellow, and I can slide the vertexes along there. So I can slide this all the way to the end, And if I click, it's going to move it to that spot. Now, here's the problem though. Now I have multiple vertexes in the same spot. And it may not seem apparent, but if I go GG and I just barely take it off there, you can see that now we've got some really tight vertexes, and that's not ideal. So there's a feature in Blender. I'm going to Control Z undo that. There's this one right here. Right next to options underneath your viewport displays. There's this one right here. It's like two vertexes with like kind of a oval between them. And this says auto merge vertices. Automatically merge vertices moved to the same location. So if I'm moving those vertexes, if I go double G and slide that one over so it's exactly on top of it, it's going to merge them so it's just one vertex, which is what we want. So I'm going to turn that on. This is something that might be okay to have on all the time. Okay, so now I'm going to grab this one, double G, GG, 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 and slide it all the way into there. Click, and now this is one point here. So we can kind of position these a little bit to make this a little bit nicer. Cool. Maybe this comes in a little bit in the back. How about, whoops, 3 for my face select. Cool. All right. Now, so that's pretty good for our side view. Let's look at our front view now. So you can see that our scale maybe isn't perfect. And this is the ultimate problem, or this kind of points at the ultimate problem of modeling something from a reference, is that it's usually not going to be perfect, and it's a little bit messy. But I'm just showing you how this works. So I'm going to kind of attempt to position this in a or kind of form this shape in a little bit nicer way. So I'm going to grab these edges here. I'm going to hit G. I'm going to kind of put them right here. And obviously you can see that from the front view, we have lots of different vertices that are not lined up. So kind of looking back here. So those are the ones on the very bottom. So you kind of have to, you're going to be kind of switching between your views quite a bit. These ones are kind of, so like this was the hull and the back. These ones here that I'm selecting are kind of like the outer part of the front, which we're kind of went to about here, maybe. These ones are like the back, kind of like this, maybe. The front ones I'm not going to change too much because I think the front was fine. The other thing I'm going to do here is, because I want like that little outward thing, I'm going to add a loop cut all the way around the center. So I'm going to Control R, and you can kind of see, let me get out of that. If I do Control R, again, it kind of tries to find the middle of the thing. It's a little bit wavy because we did kind of move a little bit, but that's fine. I'm going to click here and then right click to stop the sliding. And then I'm going to go back to my front view, and I'm going to S scale out that front part like this. Aha, so it actually made it quite messy, so I realized I didn't want to do that. I want to S in the X direction. Just to kind of move that out like that. And it's being a little bit funky. Like, can you see how the front is doing the opposite? So I'll just have to go in and fix that. So I'm just going to slide this out. Actually, you know what I'll do is I'll right click. And I've got my selection tool. I'm going to deselect this vertex here. So I'm going to Control click that one and select it to deselect it. So now let me try this. If I SX, let's still doing it. I'm going to Control click this one then too. SX. Yeah, okay, that's not having the effect I want. So maybe what I didn't want was scale. Maybe I'm going to shift. I'm going to select these ones again. I'm going to Control click this back one because I don't want that. And I'm just going to, rather than scale it, I'm going to G exit. I'm just going to move it out like this. Yeah, that'll be fine. And then maybe I'll tuck this one back in. G X. Okay. All right, so I don't want to spend terribly too much time on this. Terribly much time. So I'm looking at this. I'm feeling like the scale is still a little bit awkward. So I kind of want to just like SX scale it down this way a little bit. It's feeling a little awkward. That's right. Okay, how are we doing? Next, what I'd like to do is I want to create a little window here, just as like one more little detail to add in. So I'm gonna go make sure I'm in edit mode with the tab key. I'm in edit mode. I can see top left here. I'm gonna extrude. I want to extrude this portion right here, and you can see because we still have the mirror modifier, it's doing it on the opposite side as well. And then I'm gonna S scale this down a little bit. And actually, maybe I want my selection tool again, but I'm going to GZ kind of move it back in like this, just so that it's like still attached. And I want to do my top-down view because I want to get these points kind of dialed in. So I'm going to go 1 for vertex select, and I want to double G tap these ones to kind of slide it up a little bit. I'm going to double G tap this one to slide. Whoops. Double G to slide it this way a little bit, because I want like a uniform size kind of frame around this window here. So I'm going to double tap G. I'm double tapping G because I want it to stay along the angle that it is. So if I do G in my orthographic view like this, and I move this in up here like this, you can see that it's like sucking it into the windows. So rather, if I do double G, it can keep it along that edge that it's already on. So I'm gonna right click to undo that. Let me go 7 for my top down view again. I'm gonna kind of put that into place there, double G again, and slide it into place here. So now I have like a nice little frame around the window here. And I can go 3 for face select, grab this one again, and I'm going to do E to extrude down like that, just a little bit. So it's like kind of like a little window there. Cool. All right, we'll call that good. I'm spending too much time on it. All right, let's work on the wing. We'll do this quickly. Tab object mode. We're going to add a new object here. I'm going to Shift A. I want to add a cylinder. I'm working on the engine here. Oh no, let's work on the wing first. I'm adding a cube. Also, hopefully you've realized this, but we'll talk about why this is later, but anytime you add anything, it's going to the center, the very center of your world. It's called the origin. It's got that little red and white circle there. Let's go front view. I'm going to G, do this. I'm going to SZ, scale it down. I want it to be really skinny. I'm going to SX, scale it like this. Let's go 7 for top view so we can just kind of get a sense of that a little bit. If it clips inside, I think that's fine for what we're doing. Okay, 1 for front view. Let's R rotate like this just to try to get it into place here. G to move. Cool. Again, like you can see that now the scale of this is off. Whatever, I'm fine with it. Okay, so there's part of our wing. I'm gonna go tab for. Let's get X-ray select going so I can kind of see through here. Remember, X-ray select is this one right here. 1 for vertex select. I'm gonna grab these here, kind of move it like this. Yeah, I think I do want to be kind of going off of my my top view. I think the top view is the closest kind of scale to what we're actually doing. So I'm just kind of positioning these to get the right shape of the wing. We'll revisit that later. So right now it's just called cube. Let's double click here and we'll call this wing. Wing. Okay, there's one wing. Let's go front view. Let's add an engine here. So tab, back into object mode. Shift A. We're adding a cylinder. Now, real quick, when I add a cylinder, open up your Add Cylinder menu here on the bottom left. Let's pay close attention to what's going on here. 32 vertices. So that's like the number of vertices kind of around the circle, air quote circle. Cap fill type. This is key. Last week, think back to when we talked about n-gons. What is an n-gon? An n-gon is a shape with more than 4 sides, a polygon with more than 4 sides. So right now, the cap fill type is n-gon. So if I leave it as is and I move this up here, and I go tab into edit mode, the shape on the top, oops, if I go 3 for face select, this one here has 32 sides. And that can be very messy. Like especially if I try to add, last week we talked about subdivision surface modifier. If I try to add a subdivision surface modifier, it like becomes a mess. And it's because it's got to like create all these triangles and stuff like that. So rather, let's delete that. I encourage you to always Shift A when you're adding a cylinder. Rather than creating n-gons, do triangle fan. So you can have it be empty if you want, but triangle fan is just like a little bit neater. Actually, it's a lot bit neater, especially if you're like extruding and doing things like that. It just makes your life easier. So now if I inspect this in object mode, we have a fan of triangles as advertised. Okay, so now I'm going to go back, tab into object mode. Let's get our front view. Actually, I think top view is fine for this. So let's RX 90 to rotate it 90 degrees around the x-axis. Let's kind of get it into position here and scale it down a little bit. Get it into position, sort of. We can even SY scale it this way a little bit. Cool. All right, now let's model the rest of the engine. So I'm gonna just kind of position it here. I'm gonna go tab now. Whoops, tab to get into edit mode. And I want vertex select again, so I'm gonna go 1. So I'm gonna select all the ones in the front here. And actually, kind of looking at the design of this, let's insert faces rather. So let's insert faces like this. So it's basically just going to do a loop cut around the center. And actually, let me turn off undo. I'm going to turn off X-ray just so you can see a little bit better. So you can insert faces across multiple things as well. So I've got the insert faces tool here. I'm in edit mode. I'm going to just kind of click. Well, I guess if you have the tool selected, you have to grab all these. And then grab the yellow bar. Or alternatively, if you just have your selection tool, you can use the keyboard shortcut, which is I, insert faces. Just to about there. And now if we E to extrude again, we're just pulling out of this particular spot, which is handy. So let's go back to our top-down view and just kind of make sure that we're getting this GY in the right spot-ish. And then let's I insert faces again. You might need to, whoops. So I didn't have X-ray select on, which is why it only selected the ones on the top. X-ray select. Get all these again. Select all these. Let's I insert faces again. And then E extrude again, like that. Cool. So 7. And we'll call that good. GY. We can move it to here. Let's also do a bevel just for fun, because it's like kind of, actually, you know what? So because it's an engine, I want to like be able to like see the air going in. So let's insert faces one more time. I key to insert faces like this. Let me turn off the X-ray again so you can kind of see what we're doing. And then I'm going to E extrude backwards in here like this. So like that's where the air goes in. If you were really being fancy, you could have put a propeller in there or something like that. I also want to bevel this front edge just a little bit. So I want to select 2 for my edge select tool. And like you could shift click all the way around here, but don't forget we can do a loop selection. If I hold down the Alt key and click on an edge, it'll grab that whole loop. And let's do a bevel tool. You can either bevel here, click that, or shortcut is Control B. You can bevel like this. If you middle mouse wheel, up your middle mouse wheel, it'll increase the number of cuts. So I believe by default it only does one, but you can middle mouse wheel to add a couple more cuts there. I'm gonna do 3. So this is 1, 2, 3. That looks good to me. And then left click to apply that. And then again, you can adjust here. So we did 3 segments, but you can change that again if you want. But I think that's fine. All right, let's try to go a little quicker. I know I'm being slow. Let's turn on X-ray so we can see through here again. Okay, so let's do the back of this engine. So I'm gonna grab, we're in object mode. Tab for edit mode. Let's turn off X-ray again. Let's do face select 3. I'm just gonna, so I have the select box selection tool activated, so I can just click and drag across all these here, grab all of them. I'm going to I key, insert faces, bring it way in, and then E extrude like this. So looking again at my reference, turning on X-ray. No, you can kind of, well, I made it much too small, but that's fine. So I'm gonna G Y, move this back. So there's a couple ways we could do this. To get it to be larger now, we could actually just scale this out to make it a little bigger, or we could E-extrude and then grab these ones and E-extrude, whoops. So we can, and we can extrude along normals here like this, just a little bit to get that a little bigger out, sure. Turn off X-ray select so we can kind of see that a little better. Cool. The other thing we can do is the wing is kind of getting in the way. So we can go back into object mode and we can just hide this wing. So with the wing selected in object mode, so make sure you go back, tab to get into object mode. Wing here, you can just hit the eyeball here to hide it. Then it's not in the way. Okay, back into object mode or edit mode. Let's do the same thing again here. I want 1 for vertex select. I'm gonna grab all these. I'm gonna extrude out to here, let's say. And then, oops, and I didn't have X-ray select on again. X-ray select, grab all these. E-extrude out to here. And then I want 3 for face select. We can extrude along normals like this, just to kind of get it out of there. Cool. So the other thing that we're doing that is maybe an unintended consequence is we're creating lots of rings along here. It's not that big of a deal, really, but something to be aware of. Okay, I'm almost done, I promise. I'm spending too much time. Let's just finish this. 3. Oops, tab edit mode. 1 vertex select. E extrude. I'm just gonna S scale this out a little bit, and then we can and then E, we can do it like this. E again, S to scale, E to here, E to here, S to scale. Cool. And then we are in wireframe there. And then maybe I'll 3 for face select. I'll take like all these ones here. I could try to loop select as well, but this is just fine. And then maybe I'll E-extrude here. This is like the inside of it, where the flames come out. All right, there's one engine. There's a wing, there's an engine. Now I just need to like position this, whoops. Tab to object mode, G position this kind of about right here. Okay. Blaster. I'm going to try to do the blaster even faster. Faster blaster. I'll hide the wing. Shift A. Nope. Shift A. What am I doing? Shift A. I was doing Control A. Here we go. Shift A. Add a cylinder. RX90. G here. S here. Scale that down a little bit. That's Y. All right, tab to get into edit mode. Let's turn on my, tab to get into edit mode. We'll turn on X-ray, select 1 for vertexes. Let's grab these ones. E to extrude here. I'm going to S scale those down. E to extrude. E to extrude again, just a little bit. S to scale it up. E to extrude here. Perfect. Moving to this side. E to extrude just a little bit. S to scale. E to extrude. E to extrude just a little bit. S to scale it up to here. E to extrude like that. E to extrude again. Scale it. Whoops. Scale that. Oops, I did it too many times. E to extrude here. S scale it down. E extrude again. E extrude a little bit. S to scale it down. E to extrude way out to here. E a little bit. S scale down. E a little bit out to here. E again. Scale that up. E. E again. Scale it up. E here. E again. Click. Scale it down. E. E again. Click. Scale it down. Whoops. Let's scale it down even more. And then one final E right there. Cool. All right. That was a lot faster. Let's get this into position over here. Let's turn our wing back on. So my wing's not in a great place. Object mode, let's G kind of just position this right here. There are like, if I do side view, there are like little like thingy bobbers here. I guess we could, I'm not gonna worry about that. Okay, final thing. On the wing here, let's look at the wing. Wing. I just want to add like a little thing here just so it's a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to edit mode for that. I'm going to control R. I want a loop cut here in the middle. I'm just going to slide that down. I'm also going to loop cut this way. Control R, loop cut here. Because I kind of want to take this one, 3 face select, E extrude up here. Maybe like R, rotate this a little bit just so there's like a little thing here, you know? I think logistically that might not actually fit in. Well, you know what? This is my own X-wing. It's an N wing for Nolan. I'm gonna just move this a little bit. Looking at the top view, there's also like a little cutout here. Maybe we can do that. Oops. Control R. Oops. We need edit mode. Control R here for this kind of loop cut. I'm gonna middle mouse wheel up to get another one. No, right click. I want number of cuts 2 like this. And then I can go to my vertex select. Yeah, I probably should have done one more. I'm gonna do a couple more loop cuts. Loop cut here, middle mouse wheel up like that. I'm gonna scale them in the X direction like this. I don't know. And I'm going to grab these ones. This is getting real janky. I'm going to grab this one and this one. I'm holding down the shift key and I'm going to GY move. Whoops. GY move those in like that as a little cutout. I don't know. All right. Calling that good. Final trick. Okay. So we've got 1 wing. How do we get 4 wings? So there's a cool thing you can do. With our scene collection. So we've got a few things here. So let me go back into object mode tab. So we'll call, right now we need to label things. This cylinder is the engine. What is this cylinder? This cylinder is like the blaster. And then we've got the wing. So we've got wing, blaster, engine. Let's create a new collection. So we just have one that's called collection. So like, why not make a new one? New collection, and we'll call this whole wing or something like that. Something descriptive. Whole wing. And we can actually drag our blaster right into the whole wing here. We can grab our engine, put that in, and we can put the wing and put that in as well. So now all of these things live within whole wing, and we can just call this like everything else. Cool. So the nice thing about a collection is you can now create an instance of it. And an instance of something is it's not just, it's more than a copy paste. It's like an actual duplication of it. And I'll show you why it's cool. So we've got whole wing in here. In your scene, we can Shift A, add way down at the bottom, collection instance. And it's got a list of our two collections, everything else and whole wing. So if you hit whole wing, you can see up here in our scene collection, we've got everything else, whole wing, and then an orange whole wing. So this is actually something that it's a copy, but it's more than a copy. It's an instance. So let's position this. You know, how do we flip it the other way? You can actually change the scale to a negative value. So if we look at the X scale here, you can actually drag this down into a negative value and boop, make it -1. So it's easier just to type in -1. Now it's in the right spot. And so the cool thing is, anytime I change anything in the original whole wing group, it's going to change it in the other instance. So like even editing, like if I go tab into edit mode and I grab all these faces and I G move them like this, it's going to do it in the other instances. Right click to undo that. Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. So just do this a couple more times. Oops. So you can't Shift D the instance. You do have to kind of add it in again. So we'll go Control Shift A, collection instance, whole wing, and then Shift A, collection instance, whole wing. So we've got a couple in here. This one we can change the the Z scale to -1. And this one we can change the X to -1 and the Z to -1. There we go. Four things. Very cool. Okay, whew. That took longer than I wanted it to. Let's talk about lights and materials. Now, I'm gonna hide my reference images. Hide this, hide this, hide this. So you can see, if you didn't delete it, you've got a light and a camera in here. Along the top, our viewport shading, we've looked at wireframe, we've looked at solid mode, but this one is called material preview. So this is, once we put materials on here, you'll be able to look a little closer at that. But this one is a render preview. So render preview here actually shows us what the lights are doing. So we have one light in here. You know, transform tools work just like they do in other modeling. You can G move a light around. And there's a few different kinds of lights. This default light is a point light. So it's a single point that radiates light in every direction. Let's go to our add menu. So remember, we're in object mode. Lights are objects too. Lights are objects too. Shift A. We've done meshes. Now let's look at lights. So we have 4 different kinds here: point, sun, spot, area. All right, so you know, light has a position and all that, but it also has like brightness and color and other things like that. So along the right here on our properties tabs, we have object data properties, the green one. Because this is a light, it's the symbol of a light bulb. So you can click on that. And here's a few different settings you can change. By default, they're white. You can change the color of it, so you can make it a pink light or a blue light or whatever. Or a white light. You can change the strength of it. So if you've taken a lighting class, you maybe have a basic understanding of what 1,000 watts of light is. But you know, these are, this is the brightness. So like this is 0, this is 600, this is 5,000. So different strengths of light. Diffuse, specular, and volume. This is actually a little bit new in Blender 3.0, but diffusion basically like spreads out the light, or like If you put diffusion in front of a light, it creates a softer light and less harsh shadows. The other thing about lights too is it has fall off. So like the further away this point light gets from the X-wing, the dimmer it gets. Whereas like the closer it is, the brighter it is. So that's one thing to be aware of. With a point light, so different lights have different properties. So like a point light has a radius as well. So it's not technically a single point. It is represented by a sphere, and this sphere is 0.1 meters. So we can make this size larger. It can have a larger radius. So then the light is coming from a larger area, and then in effect making the shadows softer. So that's the radius of the light. So actually, let's see. If I move this light over here, kind of looking at the shadow of the engine here. If I increase the radius, the shadow gets softer. It's spread out more. Okay, the different kinds of lights. So you can add a light in here, but you can also just change it on the object data property. So that's a point light. Sunlight acts like the sun. So it is infinite in that there's no fall off. So this one, the farther away I move it, it doesn't get any less bright. So like even if I Shift A add a monkey and I G move it way over here, it's still getting the same amount of sunlight because it's millions of miles away and casting uniform light across. Let me click on our sunlight again. So you can change the angle of it, strength, color, etc. So it doesn't have to be actual sunlight. You can do something different with it. 1000 watts maybe makes more sense. Maybe not, maybe 200. One of my complaints about Blender is the default light values often feel incorrect. Okay, what else? We've got spotlight. Imagine like being on a stage. So spotlight has direction. So I'm going to try to move this a little closer to the X-wing here. So yeah, here, I think that's because I changed it. Let me change this back to 1000. So a spotlight has like a specific direction that it's going. So you can see that, let me make this 2000. So you can see that like it's casting a shadow right here. So spot shape, we can change the spot shape to be a different size. It can be, a little bit more dramatic like this or whatever. Blend is the amount of like blurriness along the edge. So if the blend is at 0, it's going to be a really sharp edge here like this on the front of the X-wing. As you increase the blend, it gets like a little bit softer, a little bit more dramatic. That's the blend. And that's a spotlight. And obviously, you can move the direction around, point it at what you want it to point at. Finally, area light. So area light has a shape. And actually by default, it's kind of, you can't really see it. Or maybe it was just the angle I was at. So you can change, it's the X and Y shape if it's a rectangle. So the light is coming, imagine like in a photo studio or like you've got an LED panel, like that's the shape of the light. It's an area light. And you can change the shape too. You've got square, rectangle, disc, ellipse. And you can change the size and shape of all of these things. And so again, like an area light is more of a diffuse light, not as hard of shadows. And we're going to spend a lot more time on this later. I'm going through this quickly just so you can kind of get it done and play with it. All right, materials. Let's quickly talk about materials. And I know I'm going fast. We'll spend a lot more time on materials later, but I just want to introduce it to you this week. Probably next week we'll spend more time on all of this. With an object select, so let's select our body like this. With our object selected, you know what's bugging me? How this is floating over here like this. GZ. There we go. With an object selected, let's select our body. We've got all of our properties tabs down here. This is the object data properties. This one is material. properties. This beach ball here on the bottom, it's red. All right, so in our so the default cube that you start with actually already has this base material on it. This is just like the boring basic starting material. But we can go right now with this material selected on your material properties tab. You can troll down the surface here, and you can change some of these things. The base color is white. Let's change it to red. Cool. Or green. This could be a pink X-ray. X-ray? X-wing. You can change the specularness of it. So like kind of look, because we have a light in here, you can kind of see the reflection here of the light on it. You can see it's a little bit shiny right here. So if I change the specularness of it, it goes from more shiny to less shiny. Roughness is another one as well. So like you can see the roughness kind of spreads out the shine. As I turn the roughness down, the shine gets a little bit more, oops, that was specular. Roughness. As I turn the roughness down, if roughness is at 0, it's like perfectly smooth, perfectly shiny. Because this is my area light here that you're seeing, by the way. Roughness up kind of spreads the shininess out. That's roughness. Sheen, tint, clear coat. I mean, all of these are like little things that you can change. Transmission is actually transparency a little bit. Yeah, so this is the type of surface that this is called a principled BSDF. We'll talk about all this a lot later. But I just wanted to like show you that this is here. You can also open this up and it gives you a little preview of it, not on an object. So like if I change the specular, you can see it changing here in the preview window. Metallic. If you turn metallic all the way up, then it's like pink chrome basically, which is kind of cool. I don't know. So the materials are attached to an object. So you can see like we put it on this X-wing body object, and we can go through and change these again, or change these for the other objects. But the nice thing is like if I select the engine here, I can, in this drop down here, it says browse material to be linked. So I can click here and it has the list of the other materials that I've made. So like this pink material, it gives me a little preview. I can just drop it right on there. One thing we'll do, so, and like we'll probably continue to clean this up a little bit later, but like let's also add a shade smooth. If I right click on my object here, I can shade smooth. We'll talk about adding edges and stuff later, but that just might make it look a little cooler. Same thing here. Let's just make the whole thing pink. So I have my wings object selected now. I'm on the material properties tab. I can hit this little beach ball drop down and do material. Or, like if I'm on the blaster here, I can add another new one and I can rename this blaster material. And maybe this one is just like perfect metallic like this. It's like chromed out and it's black like that, or it's like a little bit blue. I don't know. 0 roughness, a little bit rougher. I don't know, something like that. Cool. Look at our shiny pink X-wing. Now you can also apply different materials to different areas of an object. So this is a little tricky, but let's go to our engine here, and let's say we wanted to have like a green stripe around part of this. So what I can do, I'm going to close the preview, is first let me make that green material. So with my engine selected, we have the pink material on here. I'm going to hit this plus button on the right. It says add material slot, add a new material slot. So it adds another row in here, and let's make a new one now. So I could have selected another one, or we can just make a new one, but I'm just going to make this, I'm going to click on base color here and make this green. Cool. So we can see we've got the pink one and the green one in here, but nothing has happened on here. So what I can do is I can go into edit mode by hitting the tab key. And let me select, actually, why don't I do Control R, add and a middle mouse wheel up like this, add 2 loop cuts. I don't know, maybe slide them like this. And then I want 3 for face select, and I want to click 1, alt click to grab that loop. And now that I have particular faces selected, I can apply a material just to those faces. So with these faces selected, I can hit this green material and then hit assign, this assign button, and it's going to assign that green material to those faces. Okay, and I can get tab back into object mode, and now we've got this crazy abomination. Cool. Okay, so final thing here. Let's talk about renders and cameras. So we have a camera in here, but we don't really know what it's doing. So there's a couple ways to actually see what your camera is doing. You can hit this button right here, toggle the camera view, and it's going to actually snap into your camera. And it's like, oh, that's kind of, and so this frame, this gray frame, is what would be rendered. So let's actually position our camera in a little bit more interesting spot. So the keyboard shortcut to do that is on your number pad. If you have a number pad, you can hit the 0 on your number pad. It's going to snap into your camera view. But you can transform your camera like this. So if you click the camera object, you can G move it around and R rotate and do stuff like that. But what I like to do is for me, it's easier to kind of move around the viewport and kind of do my regular viewport navigation and find a shot that I like. And then there's a way to set the camera to your view. So in the menus, it's you can go to View, and it is Align View. And let's see, Align Active Camera to View is this one. So it moves the camera to where you are. The keyboard shortcut for that is Control Alt 0 on your number pad. Sorry, Control Alt 0 on your number pad. So if you don't have a number pad, Control Alt 0, or if you don't have a number pad, you can go View, Align Active View to Camera. So when you've done that, we're in our camera here, and you actually can see that we have camera properties along the bottom right. So we've got you can toggle between perspective and orthographic or even a panoramic camera. You can change the focal length. So if you know anything about cameras, you can zoom in or zoom out, do a fisheye, things like that. Shift, whatever. And then when you're ready to render, you can go, you've got a render menu up here and say render image. And there's a rendered image. You can image, you can save it, do whatever. And you've got it. If you're displeased with the gray background, you can put something different back there, or you can even change the color of the background. So like here, world properties, this red little earth here, you can change the background color to be black or whatever, if that fits your mood a little better. And now if I do a render image, or F12, oh yeah, it's like nighttime X-Wing. I'll probably add some more lights. Okay. Oh my gosh, this one's getting really long. Okay, let's talk about your assignment. Assignment 2. Assignment 2, lights, cameras, materials. Model an object or scene and include at least 3 different materials, 3 different lights, and a camera. Please submit a rendered image and your blend project file to D2L. We will do a progress check on Thursday, February 10th. Final submission deadline is February 17th. This is worth 10 points. You have 2 points for just modeling an object or a scene if you want multiple objects. 2 points if you are including at least 3 materials. 2 points for including at least 3 lights. 2 points for submitting a rendered image and your Blender file, project file, And then finally 2 points for getting it in on time. So feel free to get started on this. I feel like I rushed through the materials and the lights and the rendering a little bit. So we will spend more time on that in next week's lecture. So if you feel like, oh my gosh, like what even happened just now? I understand. So I'll do a little bit more in depth about lights, materials, and cameras next week as part of our UV. I believe next week we're talking about UV. So we'll supplement that next week. So if you're feeling like it's too much right now, don't worry. We'll get there, and you should still have plenty of time to complete this assignment. So real quickly, if I were to continue down this path, and close my render window here. Obviously I'd have a couple more lights. Like let me put another point light here like this. Move that down. Go to my light properties. So like by default it's 10 watts, which is like nothing. I want that to be at like 1,000 or 1,500 even. And move it down here and change that to like kind of an ominous blue light, and then maybe I'll Shift A. I'll add another light and just another point here, and I'll move this one up, and this one's going to be a little brighter. This one's going to be 2,000 watts like this, or maybe I should put it over here like that. That's the thing about like the shininess of things. Move this a little closer. So be careful with the metallic because it's hard to light it. Anyway. And I've already got 3 materials on there, so you can see that it's lighting up the green really well, but not so much with the others. So if I F12 do a render like this, I don't know. So all you need is a model, 3 lights, 3 materials, a camera, render out an image. You can image, save as, whatever, and we'll call that good. Okay, happy modeling, happy lighting, happy materialing. And email me with questions, and don't worry, next week we'll spend more time on this. So that's all. Okay, bye.